The Aries full moon on October 17th may trigger you, but it will heal you. Hi all, thanks for swimming over to my cosmic cove of the internet. Welcome to your weekly astrological forecast, Magic Monday. Today we're diving into the cosmic currents from October 14th to October 20th, 2024. I am your host, Haley Comet. Today I am dressed as a mermaid. I'm dressing up every single week of October to deliver your horoscope to you. And if anything, let my costume today remind you to just keep swimming. Some of these cosmic currents of energy that we are navigating are a little choppy, are a little tumultuous, but just keep on using those fins and we will get through it. So mermaid talk aside, let's discuss what is alive within this week's astrology and how you will feel it in your universe down here on planet Earth. So first things first, and I do mean first things first. We've got a full moon this week in the first sign of the zodiac, Aries. And Aries is a very headstrong, independent, impulsive energy. And you can find this week that you are more inclined to operate on impulse. And this can be a beautiful thing. Some of you can find that you tap into courage this week that you did not even know that you had, that it comes from a very soulful place, that you're able to stand up for yourself or stand up for someone that you hold dear within your universe with this amount of boldness that you're like, oh my gosh, am I really doing this right now? But that inner dialogue isn't present to anyone beyond you. It's kind of that energy when you step into this strength and this fierceness that you realize I am so much stronger than I even recognized that I am. Because that's the thing, we don't know how strong we are, whether that's physically, emotionally, even spiritually, until we do experience opposition or at least stress. Like think about working out. You don't know how heavy of a weight you can lift until you try to lift a heavy weight. And it doesn't necessarily feel good. It does challenge you. It does test you. It is strenuous. But after it is strenuous, but after you put that weight down, you have that knowledge, wow, I didn't know I had that in me, and I did. And when we apply that to other sort of situations, emotional situations, interpersonal situations, sometimes we have to step in the ring around where it is that we are being challenged, not even being certain if we are strong enough to handle what is being required of us at the moment. And not to ruin the ending or anything for you, but you are strong enough to handle this. Whatever it is in your universe that you're holding right now, and a lot of us are holding some heavy burdens. This full moon aligns with Chiron. A lot of people are healing. A lot of people feel wounded. A lot of people feel triggered. And I want to let you know you are stronger than you recognize that you are. And whatever battle, whatever challenge, whatever stress that you are navigating this week, you're going to depart this week recognizing that you are stronger than you know. And the strength that we are tapping into with this week's astrology is not the sort of bravado of the bodybuilder who can lift heavy weights in their sleep and just marches over to the weight rack and just lifts one up with one pinky, no sweat. And their life and their schedule and their body has designed them to do just that and make it look easy. With this full moon alignment to Chiron, it is the strength of the underdog. The strength of the individual who is able to work up to this heavy weight when just a year ago they know what it feels like to walk into a gym and feel like they don't belong because they don't look like other people there. This is the sort of strength around the individual who works up to this heavy weight when they survived an accident and have been in physical therapy for the last couple of years, being able to regain their physical fitness. This is the sort of strength as somebody who deals with driving anxiety, and even just driving to the gym is a challenge in and of itself. But regardless, they got there, and regardless, they lifted this weight. This is the strength of the underdog. Somebody who, against all odds, whether those are physical, emotional, socioeconomic odds, somebody who rose above whatever challenge is in front of them. Because for a lot of us, the challenge isn't necessarily heavy weights, but there could be something within your life that feels heavy and hard for you to lift. And there's something this week that feels inflamed. And I don't mean physically, I just mean this full moon squares its ruler, Mars. And the thing about Mars is that it severs and it activates. And so typically when Mars is involved with a full moon, a problem is made aware or something that's a little grating. It's a little oppositional. It's a little frustrating to deal with. Like I said in our fitness analogy, muscle is built through tears. It's built through stress. And I'll be forthright, there might be a situation alive within your world currently that feels quite stressful. And with this full moon's alignment to Chiron, there could be certain thoughts swirling within you around, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm made for this. I don't know if I'm capable of this. But like I said, don't mean to spoil the ending, but you are, and you've got this. And it's not even to say that victory comes in the shape of a bodybuilding medal or winning some sort of argument, though you may want to be careful. People could be trying to fight with you this week. You might be trying to fight with other people. But I do see a victory being won, and it might be a small victory. It was a win that I stood up for myself in this particular dynamic. It was a win that I stood up for what was right. I stood up for what was fair. It was a win that I got in my car and drove somewhere far, even when that felt incredibly daunting at the moment. It was a win when I chose to nurture myself rather than revert to a coping strategy that I know is not good for me. It was a win when I was faced with a situation that was quite triggering, and rather than reacted, I did my breathing exercises. I implemented what it is that I've been working on for the last couple of years. Victory will be yours. Big or small, emotional or physical, internal or external, you've got this. Victory will be yours because you are stronger than you realize. So outside of that Aries full moon, which absolutely can spotlight where it is that we are healing, it could spotlight where it is that we are triggered. We have some Venus energy. Outside of that, we have some Venus energy. We have some unexpected, unstable energy earlier in the week with Sun square Mars and Venus opposite Uranus. People around you might be behaving a little unusually. People might seem a little more competitive with you, maybe even covertly competitive. There can be spiritual lessons to be had from the connections within our world with Venus trine Neptune. Venus then enters Sagittarius, which does shift the focus of love from the depths of Scorpio to the widths of Sagittarius. So there is a lot to discuss within this week's astrology, and I will be your mermaid guide, swimming your way through it. But before we do, take a step inside my cosmic cafe. My loves, what are you sipping on to start your week? So I am sipping on every mermaid's favorite beverage, a matcha latte made with my bottles of Magic Mind. If you watch Magic Monday, you know Magic Mind is part of my every single day routine. And not only has it been incredibly life-changing for my focus, for my productivity, for my getting into flow state, I've also found integrating Magic Mind into my routine has supported me in living a healthier lifestyle. I used to be someone who would guzzle coffee, especially when it hit 2 p.m. when I would start to crash. I would make another pot of coffee in order to get through the rest of the day. And not only would I drink coffee to stimulate my energy, I would also reach for sugar. And that was not a super healthy habit that I had. And I found that drinking coffee in the middle of the day, as well as loading myself up with sugar to get this like fake sort of energy in order to muscle through the rest of my tasks, actually affected my mood when I would have a sugar crash, as well as my sleep that night. I have not cut out coffee altogether, but I have limited myself to 1 cup, which is quite shocking if you knew where I used to be with my coffee consumption. So I drink a cup of coffee in the morning time as well as a Magic Mind. And I find that I don't have that crash at 2 p.m. where I'm tempted to reach for sugar or reach for another pot of coffee. I found that I've been able to sleep better. I also love, with the time of year that we're entering, that Magic Mind has vitamins in it that are specifically designed for immunities, to keep your body's immunity high, to fight off any sort of colds that are going around or anything of that nature. So I made a little Magic Mind mermaid latte. I mean, it's just a Magic Mind matcha latte. We're gonna call it a mermaid latte today. I just utilized 2 shots of Magic Mind. I put in some ice, I put in some water, I put in some almond milk. You could do this iced, you could do it hot. Most mornings I just take the shot, but sometimes I'm inclined to do something a little bit more fun to get my magic on. So if you want to try Magic Mind, your brain, your body, your schedule, your workload, your sleep will thank you. You can use my code COMET in order to get 20% off your order of Magic Mind. Thank you so much, Magic Mind, for sponsoring this week's Magic Monday and keeping this mermaid magical by ensuring that I'm in flow state. And let's go ahead and take it into Vibe Check of the Week. So welcome to Vibe Check the Week. This is a segment that we do here on Magic Monday So welcome to Vibe Check of the Week. This is a segment that we do here on Magic Monday in order to get you more familiar with what may come up within your universe as you live through this astrology. Because it's one thing to understand what it means that Venus sextiles Pluto this week and that Venus enters Sagittarius and that we have a full moon aligning with Chiron. It's one thing to understand it. It's one thing to read these energies from a book, but it's quite another to live it, to feel it. And that's why I think it's so special to navigate through astrology and to remain mindful around what comes up as you navigate these transits, because it gives you a frame of reference for later on in the future. Should another full moon aligning with Chiron come up, or should another Venus sextile Pluto transit come up, you have a frame of reference around, oh, I remember what that felt like. Oh, I remember what came up within my world. Like, I feel like it helps to richen our astrology, and that's nuance that we can't always get just from reading the books. But I do encourage reading the books. But nevertheless, this week's vibe check is the following scenario. And as always, some of the details that make it the most relevant and applicable for your world. And do know I'm not saying that this situation will literally play out. Just tune into the themes and dynamics and look out this week to see if something similar comes to the surface within your world. So let's say at your job, you get chosen to go to a conference. And it's a conference for individuals within your industry. And it's not exactly your favorite thing. You don't love being around lots of strangers. You don't love networking. And you're someone where you really value quality of connection, and you find it's hard to go there in professional networking environments. But you're game, so you put on your slacks, you put on your blazer, you grab your little pad folio, and off to the conference you go. And you're learning things at the different workshops. You're determined to get the most value out of this experience possible. And then lunch comes, which for some people watching the vibe check would be like, yay, it's break. I get to get out of these stuffy workshops and no longer listening to the keynotes and what have you. And I get some free time. I get to go explore. But some of you, and I would be in this camp, honestly, may experience lunchtime as dread. Why? Because when it comes to lunchtime, when you're in environments like this, there is an expectation to be social, which can be very daunting if you are an introvert, which we'll say the protagonist is this week. Perhaps not all of you can relate to that part, but we'll say you're a little bit more introverted. So when it's lunchtime, you are nervous because you know the expectation is to remain at lunch on site and to network with other people at this conference. And so you get your slimy chicken and salad with too much dressing on a sad styrofoam plate. You get your watered down lemonade. And then that moment where you have to decide where to sit, and you're the only person from your particular workplace who was chosen to go to this conference. So you don't know anyone here. And so you see a group of people who look relatively non-threatening. You don't think they're gonna bite your head off. So you sit down, try not to intrude, see if you kind of catch someone's eye and kind of get in the conversation. And no one really says anything, but someone's telling a story. So you try to just kind of interact with the story and giggle at the right parts and make remarks and things of that nature, but you're just not catching anyone's eye. And in fact, you can feel the person that is sitting closest to you kind of angle their body away from you, kind of cutting you out of the discussion. And just like that, it's like you've been transported back in time to being in middle school and having such a similar situation come up. Because this is not your first lunch that you have responded to with dread. But now, instead of overalls and Capri Suns, it's blazers, corporate speak, and slimy chicken, right? It's the same familiar feeling of, I am not like other people. I'm weird. Nobody likes me here. Nobody wants to talk to me. But the situation is different. And it reverts you back to the space. And you're like, I thought when I got older, I would no longer have to feel like this, to feel what it feels like to be on the outside looking in, to feel, to be quite honest, like a weirdo, right? And in that moment, it's everybody at this place, you all work in the same industry, but you're I feel so different than all of you. I feel like an alien here. And I feel like everybody can tell, everybody knows that about me, and everybody knows that I'm not like other people, and I'm seeing other people giggle and know just what to say and know just how to react in certain situations. And I just don't. I feel like I'm missing that chip. And as you're sitting at this lunch table, you feel your eyes well with tears because it's just such a familiar, triggering feeling to you. And you want to react as you would back in middle school, where you would just take your lunch and eat it in the stall so that nobody could make fun of you or no one could look at you. But then you remember, I am not that person any longer. And even though it's reverting me to that space, I don't live there any longer. If these people are purposely icing me out, that is very immature behavior. And I honestly have no interest in even participating in their dialogue or in their dumb story that wasn't even that funny anyway. I was just fake laughing. And so your tears dry at that moment because you recognize these people don't have any power over me. My value as a human is not in their eyes and it's not in their approval. And I don't need to laugh at things that I don't generally find funny. I don't need to take these people's icing out of me as a challenge around how I could dig in more and make them like me, or at the very least acknowledge me. So you stand up, you pick up your tray, you look over at them, you make eye contact and you say, "It was so nice to meet you all." And then you walk across the room and you sit with some other individuals who don't seem like they know each other. It kind of feels like they're gathered. And so you go up, you smile, you introduce yourself, and you end up making 3 lovely work friends at this event. They didn't know each other. They also felt on the outs. They also had experiences of being like, wow, it seems like things are kind of cliquey here. And the 4 of you ended up really bonding, really connecting. You guys ended up going to the happy hour together. And it turns out that one of the people is someone who can be helpful for your industry. So you get their business card and you're like, okay, great. Now my work will know that at least I tried to network, right? And so that's the vibe this week. And it's not that we're all going to professional conference this week. It's not that we're all going to feel left out this week. It's not even that all of us will be able to relate with this story. Because the thing about this full moon is that we all have different triggers. And so with this full moon, it could bring up a very raw part within you. And that differs for each and every one of us. Perhaps it's this wound around feeling excluded, like our protagonist in the vibe check. Maybe there's a wound around feeling abandoned, especially with this full moon squaring Mars in Cancer. Maybe it's a wound around feeling not chosen. Maybe it's a wound around feeling not good enough. It's personal, it's deep. That's why it cuts so deeply, Chiron stuff, because it's something that's so embedded within you that few people would really understand it. Like someone might look at that situation and be like, wow, you teared up just because people at your work conference wouldn't include you within a conversation, but they don't get how deeply it cuts, how much of a hurtful story is embedded within that about being the one who's always on the outs, being the one who never feels like they are fit in, who feels like other people look at them like some sort of pariah. It hurts because it goes deep. And everybody has a different Chiron wound within them, both within their overall big picture, as well as within the season of life that they are navigating through. And this full moon may bring that to the surface. And this may have themes to do around belonging. It may have themes to do with connection and relationship and the balance between self and others, societal norms with the energy of Libra, as well as our own raw identity. And that feeling with the full moon on Chiron that some way that I am is wrong. I am flawed. Everybody else here knows how to network. They have friends here, and somehow I'm different. Somehow I'm wrong. Again, it's not that you're necessarily going to professional networking event this week, but there just could be an energy around there's some way in the way that I authentically am that is wrong, that I am flawed. I'm too sensitive. I'm too this. I'm too weird. I'm too eccentric. I have these battles people don't know about, that they don't understand how far it cuts me down, that makes me feel like I'm deficient, that makes me feel like I'm not good enough, that I can't fit in, that I can't be seen by others, that I can't feel held by others, that I can't feel chosen by others, that I can't be included by others. Again, it differs for all of us, but it goes deep for all of us as well. And I want to let you know, if this gives you any solace at all, one of the many reasons I love astrology is because when we look at our birth chart, we recognize that there's a reason why we are the way that we are. And especially when we dial into the story of Chiron, it's like sometimes where we've suffered the most, or where it is that we've been wounded the most, can oftentimes be our greatest gift to share. It was why in the vibe check you were able to connect with those other people who also felt like outsiders at this particular event, because the world can feel like everybody else has got it figured out. Everybody else is as comfortable as can be, whether it's a professional networking event or within their relationships or within their families or within their career or on social media. Everybody's got it figured out. And then here I am with this raw experience, with this messiness, with these battles that I'm struggling that nobody really knows about, right? And it can feel like, well, everybody else has got it figured out, and it makes me feel like an alien. But it's important to know that everybody is facing their own battle. Everybody has insecurities. Everybody has inadequacies. Some people just cover it by being mean. But it's important to know that we all are facing our own battle. And it's equally important to know that because you know what that feels like, it's like you have this particular way of understanding those people who you end up connecting with at the business networking event, who also felt like outsiders, who also felt like pariahs. That raw authenticity, that vulnerability in which you're able to connect with those individuals, that is a gift that can only be given to the outsiders of the world, to the pariahs of the world, because those who don't struggle with those same battles won't understand it, and thus won't be able to deeply connect in the way that you were able to with those individuals. As well as even outside of this event, because of what you've experienced around being excluded and being bullied in middle school and things of that nature, it's like when you recognize people who are on the outside or feeling left out or are trying to make their way into a conversation or being kind of shouldered out, you are the one who intentionally makes eye contact, intentionally brings them in, because you know what it's like to feel that way. And so you strive not to allow anyone to feel that way. Like with Chiron energy, especially with Chiron having sextile Jupiter last weekend, as well as this full moon sextiling Jupiter, there's wisdom in the wound. And it's a painful story. No one's saying it's not, but there is a particular wisdom. There's a particular compassion. There's a particular even healing ability that is given because of that story that's embedded there. So we'll continue to deepen this vibe check as we continue on in our day-by-day analysis. I just have a couple of quick notes before we do so. The first being, obviously this is a wig. The wig is gonna wig. It's honestly pretty uncomfortable, and you're probably going to see it shift and just look a little wacky throughout this video. Apologies in advance. A mermaid's gotta do what a mermaid's gotta do, okay? Also, I am located in California, so please adjust for your local time. So when I say a time, when I say a date that a transit occurs, I'm referring to Pacific time, or when it happens in California. So you'll want to adjust for when it happens in the Bahamas, or when it happens in France, or wherever it is that you are listening from. Can you actually let me know where you're listening from? I would just love to know. Curious Fins would like to know. Anyways, and also I know that these videos are quite long. I have timestamps below in case you need to hop off, or if you just want to listen to the day-by-day portion as the days go by, that is available for you. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into Monday, October 14th. So welcome to your horoscope for Monday, October 14th. Happy Magic Monday, happy Mermaid Monday. But to be quite honest with you, a lot of us might feel like it's more so of a Mad Monday. And this is because after 1 a.m. PDT, the Libra sun will square off with Mars in Cancer. Now, this energy was baked into your weekend that you just had. Make sure to get caught up in last week's Magic Monday, because much of that Sunday energy is carrying over into Monday, as well as you could have felt this tension of Sun square Mars really baked into your weekend as well. And it's not going to dissipate because it's also built into the full moon that we are building to later on this week. And something important to keep in mind as it relates to navigating your week is that as that full moon above you gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you can expect your emotions to crescendo themselves. Emotions can be running high. And with the square to Mars, we may be more apt to want to take action on them right away, to want to react right away, or we might be experiencing a lot of what's coming up as just frustration. There's a lot right now that feels grating. It feels irritating. There could be areas of our life that we're having to take action towards, that we're annoyed that we have to take action towards. We could be inclined to have to protect or defend something that we don't feel like we should have to protect or defend. And really the nature of this square is quite fascinating, because with Sun square Mars, yes, there can be energies of feeling more competitive, dealing with egoic types who are trying to assert their dominance over you, and that could absolutely be felt. but it does modify its expression, seeing how the Sun and Mars are both in signs where they are debilitated within. And so it's gonna show up in not so much an overt way around people coming up to you and saying, hey, I don't like you. It's more so kind of that energy in the vibe check where they were just kind of like tilting their shoulders away from you, like trying to say things without saying it. Is kind of the vibe here. Or even individuals from the South, you know how they'll say like, oh, bless your heart. And it's like, it's sweet on the surface, but beneath the surface, oftentimes that is a phrase like, oh, honey, get it together, right? Like there's a jab underneath, like that's Mars in Cancer, even though there could be an energy around wanting to keep things socially acceptable with the Libra Sun, or pretend to be your friend, or pretend like things are good. But with the square to Mars, it's like, it's not good. There's jab, there's opposition, there's frustrating energy, kind of like grating beneath the surface. And it's not so direct. It's very passive aggressive. It's very kind of frenemy energy. It's very kind of insults delivered with a smile. Like that's kind of the vibe. And even if you don't have like enemies that you are interacting with on Monday, at least I hope you don't, there could just be this energy around feeling quite frustrated with it, and perhaps even not directing the frustration into the proper channels. Like something might have really bothered you at work and it just was stewing and stewing and stewing. Then your child asks you if you can have ice cream for dinner and you're like, Timmy, why on earth would we have ice cream for dinner? When have I ever said we could have ice cream for dinner? Like having a reaction at the unintended target. And again, with Mars energy, we can do damage when we fire things off. No matter how much frustration that you had to bear, it is your responsibility to bear it and to find appropriate channels to direct it, right? Because this could be an energy where it could fire off in directions that you don't intend for it to, like road rage or little Timmy who just wanted ice cream for dinner or something of that nature. And it might not even be this huge issue, this huge conflict. There could just be things that are freaking annoying. If you watch Magic Monday, you know that sometimes like what's happening in my life as I film the day that I'm talking about, sometimes is the energy baked in. And when I tell you I want to actually fist fight this wig, I am so irritated at this wig. It is so uncomfortable. I know it looks crazy. I am sick of adjusting it. I feel hot. I feel uncomfy. I'm not pleased. I could fight this pink wig. Honestly, I really could. So it might even just be silly things like that, where it's just annoying, it's uncomfortable, it's just like, ugh. That's kind of the vibe of Sun square Mars. And even though it lands very early on Monday, it's not necessarily going to dissipate because it is built into the full moon on Thursday. And the good thing about Mars, because I know Mars is annoying and it's frustrating and it's irritating, but the thing about Mars is that it does alert us where there is a problem. And that's kind of the gift, honestly, of the full moon that we're leading to, is that when it comes to Mars, Mars is very loud. And there feels to be a loud alarm bell being pointed at where it is that we either are in need of healing or where it is that we are healing ourselves with the full moon. Because many planets can be ignored, many planets can be snoozed. Mars is very hard to snooze because it draws its awareness in a very, hey, look at me, very obnoxious kind of way. It's very loud. And so there could be energy building this week where there are problems in your life that you are not able to ignore. And as frustrating as that can be, sometimes it is helpful to nip something in the bud or to handle it now, or to at least acknowledge that there's a problem now rather than letting it fester beneath the surface. Because the thing about Chiron is that Chiron stuff can easily fester beneath the surface, especially if every time we are triggered, we numb or we escape or we distract or we go down the typical coping mechanisms that we typically do, right? Like we'll say when that experience in the vibe check happened to you when you were younger, you would go into the bathroom. That was like the only way that you had to cope, and you would play your Game Boy. Like you would just numb yourself from the pain. And obviously it's like not judging yourself or guilting yourself if you have certain things that you do to help you dissociate or numb yourself from your reality, right? Or delude yourself from your reality. It is a way, it's a strategy for us to try to avoid pain, right? And we do this in many different ways, whether it's some sort of escapist tendency, like playing Game Boy. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's tuning into, why am I doing this particular activity? And in the case of the vibe check, it was to not have to deal with the pain of feeling excluded. Sometimes we do it by almost deluding ourselves, by trying to tell ourselves that it's something that it's not, around, well, I didn't want to sit with them anyway. I didn't want to sit with them anyway, so I don't care. I don't care. I'm not mad about it. I don't want to sit with them. They're the worst. And again, sometimes it can be a helpful mentality. I mean, seriously, who wants to sit with them? Not I. Not I. But it's not allowing yourself to just genuinely have the response around, I did want to sit there and I was hurt. And so with both these coping strategies, not that we need to guilt yourself or blame yourself for going down that path, but it is an evasive technique. A lot of times, especially when it comes to Chiron energy, the only way out is through. And sometimes the universe gets our awareness around where healing is needed via sometimes these loud situations where it's like, you've built this whole world. You've gotten this corporate job. You've worked so hard to avoid ever having to feel like the weirdo in the lunchroom and to not have to process how hurtful that felt there. And there's not many scenarios that bring you back to that place. And here the universe has delivered you a situation that makes you confront those painful feelings that have always been lurking underneath the surface, but it's easy to escape from, it's easy to hide from, it's easy to build things away from it, right? And you've been gifted, and I do mean gifted, this scenario in order to address it. And I know a lot of times it's like, Haley, Comet, how could this particular situation in my life, which feels so triggering, which brings me back to this very raw place, how could this possibly be a gift for me? Mars is loudly drawing our awareness to it, because even if it's dull, even if it's something that we can avoid or escape or build this whole life out of there, the thing about Chiron is that it leaks up in different ways. So by not acknowledging and just allowing yourself to feel and reprocess that pain that's been beneath the surface, sometimes it leaks up in other ways around your beliefs around yourself, your beliefs around friendship, your beliefs around people at large, your beliefs around yourself and your worthiness. It bakes in, but it's quiet. So we're not so aware of it, particularly as it relates to our conscious awareness, our conscious processing. And so there it goes. It's almost like running in the background. It's like an app that's running in the background that's like draining your battery, and you don't realize it. And the Mars energy is like when something annoying happens on your phone, like you're out of storage, right? Which is so annoying. I hate that. I'm constantly battling storage on my phone to record my stupid little TikToks. But it's those annoying events that make us look at the apps on our phone and really recognize what's taking up space where, what's running energy on my phone. And it takes annoying situations for us to honestly take stock. And when it comes to our mind and our healing, it's like there's so much stuff happening in the background that we're not conscious of until an event so loud makes us unable to run from it, escape from it, or hide from it any longer. You know, I shared a bit last Magic Monday about this betrayal that I experienced this year. And of course, there's feelings of anger that a lot of us may be feeling with this full moon, right? It's a Mars-ruled full moon. It's squaring Mars. A lot of us are having some feelings, okay? And I'm not saying to deny your angry feelings. Allow them. And I definitely felt them this year because what happened was deeply infuriating and deeply triggering. And yet I have so much gratitude for the entire experience now that this person is not in my life any longer. I've been able to find some perspective being in no contact with this person, because what I recognize now is that this was such a beautiful design on behalf of the universe to make me acknowledge something that was always there. But this betrayal, this person, this connection made it so loud, made it so apparent, made my life crumble in such a way that I could no longer avoid it. But when I unpack, why this person was let in, what they brought up within me, why this betrayal was so hurtful. When I unpack those layers, I recognize that it has so much more to do with me than it has to do with this person. That this person was truly a symptom to a deeper rooted problem that was existing within my life that honestly probably would have persisted for years and years and years and decades and decades and decades. Because really, when I get back to what this brings up for me, it has been a story that's been in my landscape for as long as I can remember. And it's important to say, with Chiron energy, with the healing journey, it's not that we're ever, poof, you're fixed, you're healed, you're perfect, right? There's always going to be parts of it because it's so raw, it's so tender, it's so triggering, it's so deeply hurtful. Chiron energy just cuts you deeper than anything. There's always going to be parts of it where there's a little bit of a wince. But what I will say is that this situation brought me into this place that, again, I would rather not deal with, but it made me look at it. It's like a virus, right? Like dormant. And that particular experience for me, and perhaps some situation for you as well, is basically like a flare up of it that finally makes us aware that there is a virus present. And the thing about that knowledge, or finally facing that, is that that's the first step to healing, because then you could figure out, okay, are there ways that I can cope with the symptoms? Are there ways that I can heal from the virus itself? Can I learn more about the virus? Like, it's like, you know, this full moon sextile is Jupiter. We still have Jupiter sextile Chiron alive in the cosmos. Like, knowledge can be powerful, especially when it comes to our healing journey. Like, I'm sure you've had verbiage around certain things that you were battling that helps you, if not heal, at least understand it. Like, for example, if you finally, after years of not being certain what was happening, you finally have a diagnosis. It's not that it takes away all that you've been battling with, but at least it gives you this peace of mind around having a verbiage or an understanding around, okay, so that's what's going on. Or even if you're able to identify certain verbiage around understanding that the person that you were interacting with is a narcissist. It's not that it helps your particular relationship, but it helps you at least have a framework and understanding, and even being able to connect with other people around it. Like, there is something healing about knowledge. So even if it's not something as, you know, nefarious as like a virus underneath the surface, or like this overall story that this is just a symptom for a deeper rooted problem, there just could be certain things that are irritating you this week that I would encourage you to get curious around. What am I really mad about? Like, am I really mad at this wig, or are there other things that I'm frustrated by? Am I really mad that this person cut me off, or is it pinging at something deeper? There could be something beneath the surface that your reactions, your lash outs, your frustrations are just symptoms of what's really bothering you beneath the surface. And honestly, Monday is a little bit of a firecracker energy. I always think that when we have harsh Mars and we have harsh Uranus aligning in the cosmos, it's not that the two are interacting each other, but we have Sun square Mars in the morning, and then we have Venus opposite Uranus at 3:22 p.m. So like I said, people could be a little feisty, a little irritated, even if you didn't do anything. Like, if people are shorter with you and you're like, what did I do? Just know that with Sun square Mars, you might just be an unintended target for this person's frustration. I'm not justifying anyone's behavior. Everybody's reactions are their responsibility, but I'm just letting you know not to take it personally. And with the energy of Uranus, there may be things that don't go according to plan. There may be things that occur that are unexpected. Your lover could be behaving a little weird. You know, with Venus in Scorpio, it's like, I want to stare deeply into your eyes until our souls fuse and become one. And your lover might be like, oh, I kind of need some space. You might be like, the space? I was looking at grave plots to see if we would be able to be buried next to one another. And you want space? While we're alive? Are you kidding me? That could be the vibe, right? Or at least, I mean, I'm being dramatic, but at least with Venus and Scorpio, we're really craving depth within our connections. And with the opposition to Uranus, we might feel like we're not being allowed that energy of depth. And it might be making us feel kind of weird. It's like that vibe when you're at a business networking event, and it's just like, these people are talking a different language. I know we're all allegedly in the same industry, but I don't get you people. I don't understand you. And that's how I always felt at business networking events. I'm like, I get it, like soul to soul, there's always something that we could connect on, but I just don't know how to get there in a professional context, and I just don't understand why you're so excited about CPM, and I don't know what questions to ask. I don't know what we should talk about here. Like, I feel like an alien. And even if you're not at a professional conference, there could just be that energy around, am I an alien on Monday? Because Uranus energy tends to highlight where it is that we feel eccentric. Uranus energy tends to bring to the surface where it is that we feel eccentric or different or weird. And there could just be that energy, I mean, with Venus and Scorpio, around feeling like a brooding, mysterious outsider, right? Looking out at a conference of people, or just looking out at other people and just being like, I don't feel like I'm like you all. I don't get you all, which is why we felt that in the vibe check around everybody else seems like they're totally at ease talking about CPM and all of our business lingo. And I don't know what to say. I don't know the social norms. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And it makes me feel weird. Like, I just want to talk about, astrology. I want to talk about Myers-Briggs. I want to talk about things that set my soul on fire, and I feel like I'm not able to get to that level of depth in this particular environment, and I just cannot swim in these shallow ponds of conversation. And again, I'm not casting judgment on individuals at business conferences. It's just basically the viewpoint that the protagonist has, which I'm sure you felt maybe at different social environments when you just have that moment where you're just like, I just feel different than everyone around me. I just feel weird. I feel too intense, or I feel like I crave a level of depth that's not here, or I don't know the social norms here. I feel weird. And that could be coming to the surface on Monday. There also could be unexpected events in love, unexpected events financially, unexpected even aesthetic-wise, like wanting to do something different. You also might find that plans change with a loved one. Uranus energy really asks us to expect the unexpected. You also might find that your partner is behaving unusually. Like I said, they're craving space. They might be wanting to try something new, which might make you feel uneasy, right? And like we talked about in last week's Magic Monday, it's so important to know that growth is not the enemy. And especially with Venus and Scorpio, it's all around the connections that we're able to evolve with. And oftentimes when we notice that someone near and dear to us is changing, there can be a tendency to want to cling or to freak out. And it's important to really allow other people to be themselves as we allow ourselves to be ourselves. Again, if somebody near and dear to you is behaving erratically or in ways that you wouldn't expect of them, allow them that space, a little bit of distance to integrate whatever it is that they got going on. And on Monday, the moon is in Pisces all day long, which feels so appropriate for my mermaid getup. I feel like Pisces are the mermaids of the zodiac. I'm a Pisces and I've always felt like a mermaid at heart. So today I'm dressed up like a mermaid, but I'm a mermaid the other 364 days of the year as well. In fact, all of this mermaid memorabilia on the side table is honestly not even a fourth of the mermaid merch that I have around here. Even if you don't identify as a mermaid and you're not dressing up like a mermaid for Halloween this year, you may find, particularly on Monday, there's a desire to grow fins and swim into the ocean, right? I feel like the reason I attribute mermaid energy to Pisces energy is because I do feel that there is an energy of, escaping into your own world and just this desire to be in the depths that can finally understand you. That degree of mystery and allure from a distance, when we think about siren energy, just feels very Piscean. You might be wanting to just escape and just swim away from your world, just dissolve into something that feels mystical and mysterious and bigger than you, right? Life can feel to be a lot right now. Like I said, with Sun square Mars, there can be certain things that you're having to do, that you're annoyed that you're having to do, actions you're having to take that you're annoyed that you're having to take, battles you're having to wage that you're annoyed you're having to wage. And with Venus opposite Uranus, you could just want something different within your world. And with the energy of Pisces moon on Saturn around 11 a.m., there could just be responsibilities that are keeping you very tethered to this world, that are keeping you very grounded in these 2 feet, when all you want is a fin and just swim on out of here. That could be alive on Monday. There could be a lot of looking out the window, daydreaming or imagining or wishing or yearning or longing. It's kind of the vibe. But then with the conjunction to Saturn, it's there's not even time to long and yearn and wish and daydream, because you have a meeting to go to and you have to pick up the cat from the vet and you have to clean the house. It's can't I just daydream about being a mermaid without my life screaming at me? Like, seriously, how is there possibly this many things to do all of the time? Like, that could be the vibe. Or you could just be feeling a little bit melancholic. Do keep in mind, as the full moon gets bigger and bigger and bigger, our emotions swell as well. And so you might be feeling all sorts of shades and textures of emotions and feeling everything so very deeply, which is not so productive. It's not so productive to be on a walk and tear up because you notice that a flower looks wilted and that's how you feel on the inside. It's not productive when you're trying to work on a work project. The color in the brand deck reminds you of the exact color of the sweater that your grandpa used to wear and you tear up thinking of him. Like, it's just not a productive way to live life, feeling everything so deeply. It is a beautiful way to navigate life. As a Pisces, I wouldn't trade it for anything, as hurtful and as painful as it can be a majority of the time. You also get some really beautiful, sweet moments because you are so fully immersed in this experience. And I'm not even just limiting this to just Pisces energy, but I do feel like it is part of the Pisces experience to feel every shade very, very deeply and very intensely and allow it to wash through us like a wave, right? And it's important to acknowledge that emotions are continually ebbing and flowing, that nothing is too permanent, that it's constantly in transition. Allow that be a sensation of solace when there are more negative emotions and a desire for appreciation, grabbing hold of those more positive emotions. Because honestly, Monday might be a combination of both. You know, that evening, the Pisces moon squares Jupiter in Gemini around 11:30 p.m., which Jupiter enhances what it touches with the energy of Pisces moon. This could be feeling big emotions, right? Crying at a movie or just crying because your dog is so cute or something of that nature. But it also could be like really feeling this energy of gratitude, feeling very led and connected to your soul's purpose. Perhaps even having certain energy of, you know, indulgence or procrastination or things of that nature. But just important to let things flow. Emotions come and go. Just be present for them as they flow through. So on Tuesday, October 15th at 5:49 p.m. PDT, Venus in Scorpio will trine Neptune in Pisces, which asks us to get lost in what it is that we love. It asks us to be seduced by what it is that we find soulful. It asks us to be enchanted by what it is that we find excellent. Do you get my drift? While there's a lot of energy happening this week that's noisy and grating and bringing things up to the surface, there's this deep hum of honestly magic and divinity that we have access to that's important for us to tap into. Because trines also, while it's a harmonious flow of energy, it tends to be energies that we kind of take for granted. And so reach for a Venus trine Neptune. And what does that look like? It looks like expanding those moments of divinity within your daily life. It looks like finding magic within the mundane. I need to stop speaking in alliteration. I don't know if it's the mermaid getup or what, but that's what's coming out today. But it is just about grabbing hold of those moments of beauty where you find them and really just seeing the presence of God and the divine and universe source energy all around us. And while there are things that are feeling annoying and grating, it's tuning into the ways that the universe is speaking to you, even speaking through you. The beauty that you are seeing within humanity. Again, a lot of us can be seeing a lot of ugliness within humanity. But tune into the kindness because it also exists. And it's what you found in that conference room that day is you found kindness. You didn't let the meanies of the world dampen your viewpoint of believing in the good in people and finding the good in people, which is a laudable act if your life has consisted of many experiences in which you have seen the ugliest parts of humanity or the shadow side of things. It's a beautiful quality to still look for the good, even if it gets you burned sometimes, right? Around believing the best in people, around these people should let me into their conversation when I don't know where to sit at this conference room because we are all adults, right? It is a brave and beautiful act to remain pure of heart, even when there's been experiences that could have easily made you jaded. In human nature, it is a beautiful thing to still look for the good in people, even after you've been hurt. And it's so important, while Saturn in Pisces is asking us to, form some sense of armor over our compassion, it's a beautiful thing to still believe in the kindness of human nature and to believe in it because you are it. And with the Venus trine Neptune, it's taking, I could have taken those experiences around being so ostracized and being bullied and being made fun of and being belittled, and I could have let that taint me. I could have gone on the offense. That's what a lot of people do. Hurt people, truly. A lot of people take where it is that they have been hurt and they choose to hurt other people, to evade or to run from that hurt or from that pain, or to feel somehow in power over it in some way. It is a brave and beautiful thing to still consistently remain kind at heart and look to lend out a helping hand or to make other people feel included when you personally have felt excluded. It probably would have been a lot easier to be jaded. That's very baked into Chiron's story. If you read about Chiron within mythology, in that Chiron had every reason to be jaded and be like, F all y'all. Chiron has an interesting backstory, but basically the mark of Chiron is that Chiron was abandoned. He had a weird birth story. Again, with a lot of mythology, it's like, what did what with who, huh? But, some situations unfolded that made him half centaur and half human. And I know centaurs are half human, half horse, but literally in a lot of renditions, he had 2 human legs and a centaur butt. He truly was half and half. So everybody abandoned him and ignored him because he was too human-like for the centaurs and he was too centaur-like for the humans. The humans found him too undignified because centaurs in mythology were considered very wild, and he didn't really have as much in common with the centaurs. It was just energy of just being where do I belong, right? In the lunch table of life, right? Chiron was there with his tray, where the hell do I sit, right? And those sort of experiences can make you give up on humanity or make you want to be very jaded. But just as Chiron did, and we're being asked to do, it's around still being kind. It's still looking out around. They are kind of looking around, looking a little awkward. Let me, bring these people together that I see across the room and let's all be friends because we're all seeking connection. I'm not going to give up on humanity. I want to believe the good in humanity. And so with Venus trine Neptune, it's finding those moments that affirm to you the goodness of humanity and of the human heart, even in times of crisis or even in times of massive transformation or in intense scenarios where it is that people are kind and are good. Even if you just have to watch a very pure, animal video or a random acts of kindness video, it's basically an ask to get in touch with where it is that compassion is alive within this experience, and perhaps even in harsh, ugly, tumultuous, hard experiences, right? With Venus not in a position of dignity. But, the lotus blooms in the mud. The kindness of humans does show up in times of turmoil or transformation, and tuning into it. Even if there's a lot of Mars energy, that's a lot of exclamation points and fighting and conflict and things happening that are unexpected, there's a hum of kindness, of divinity, of compassion alive. Also with this energy, if you are on a date tonight with Venus trine Neptune, you could get lost in your lover's eyes. You could talk about some really deep, soulful experiences and feel like the two of you are bonding on a very, very deep spiritual level. This could be the energy around seeing the divinity within someone. And this could show up within your lovers, but it can also show up within your enemies as well. Like I shared yesterday, it's I see the divinity in that experience. It was annoying. I have feelings about it, but I see how divine it was. And that to a soul level, we all come here to help one another learn lessons, and knowing sometimes the people that we have the most conflict with present the most opportunities for growth and for healing and for spiritual evolution. And sometimes seeing it from a higher perspective or spiritual perspective helps you alchemize the experience around recognizing where it is that this experience is helping you step into your life's purpose, or helping you learn particular aspects of yourself, or helping you clarify certain arenas that are necessary within your spiritual growth. I am not saying within every stage of our healing journey we need to be like, love and light, you hurt me, but it's okay because I learned compassion, or I learned boundaries, or I learned this new skill that helps me within my teaching. Like, it's not saying you have to go there or like love and light the pain away, but it does help you alchemize the experience and move forward and transform your relationship to it, being able to extract some sort of spiritual lesson that you took from it. Like, I truly do believe that before we come here, we have certain agreements with other people around, okay, I'm going to teach you unconditional love. You're going to teach me about self-love. You know, the dynamic of that. Or I'm going to teach you about this and you're going to teach me about this. And sometimes it shows up around us walking together as friends, and that's how we teach each other these things. And sometimes it shows up around enemies or having a more tenuous relationship, but we can still alchemize that into gold for our own experience, or at least see the higher perspective of it or the higher dimension of it. It's not right that people have hurt you, but it helps you step into the alchemist of your own experience when you're able to see, wow, that helped me tap into this particular gift, or I learned this particular arena of my life. It helps you transform it, because a lot of times when it comes to healing and where the wound happens, we get stuck. And that's where Mars energy is helpful to get us unstuck, right? To make these issues so loud and so in our face that we have no choice but to face it or to deal with it, right? Head on. I mean, it's an Aries full moon, head on. Because oftentimes we get stuck. Either we make it about us, there's something wrong with me that I did wrong, that they shut me out of that conversation. So I'm going to ruminate over that lunch table over and over to try to figure out, was it what I wore? Do I just have an overall off-putting vibe? What was it about me that made them snub me? Or sometimes we go to them, right? Especially with Neptune energy, we try to get into their experience around what within them snubbed me, right? Are they self-loathing? Do I represent something to them that they don't want to deal with? And while that can be helpful because it helps us step into, it's so rarely like about you, you don't want to get too caught up there in the Neptunian energy of trying to like merge into other people's energy and figure it out. Because again, you're just going to hit a brick wall looking for answers, right? And being stuck in that rumination where even years in the future, you're still at the lunch table, right? You might be, 37 years old, have this corporate job, but you're still at the lunch table in middle school. Like, when we ruminate, we get stuck there, and we just get stuck in these circles. Either what's wrong with me, or what is it within them that's making them snub me? And what Venus trine Neptune is just transforming it all together, seeing the spiritual perspective around, it doesn't matter what it was around me. It doesn't matter what it was around them. What matters is what I learned from both of those lunch tables, which is what I learned is that I can walk away from situations where I'm not feeling welcomed. I have the agency and the power to do that. I learned that I don't want to be around people who intentionally snub out other people. That indicates that our values are not aligned, and I'm not going to take it personally. I'm not going to put any energy towards them. I'm simply going to take the agency in order to move myself to a new table. I recognize the spiritual value of this experience coming up in such a loud and obnoxious way so that I was able to soothe that 13-year-old self who felt snubbed and felt annoyed and was able to take the action steps that she so wished that she could have had. Sometimes finding that spiritual dimension and being able to alchemize the experience, regardless of what's happening with them or with you, it's like stepping into the spiritual value that you gained from it. Because a lot of times those answers, we just will never know. And we get stuck when we're constantly looking for answers. What is it about me? What is it about you guys? Sometimes it's like, spiritually, what did I learn from it? What can I take from it in order to transform my relationship to it? So I actually get up and leave the lunch table. And listen, I'm going to say this, but let it go if it's not available to you, because I feel like with this Mars energy, Lots of us are mad, perhaps rightfully so, but I will say Neptune can be the wavelengths of forgiveness. It can be the wavelengths of compassion. So if that's accessible to you, reach for it. If anything, for your soul, it does set you free. It truly does set you free. It's a very, very self-honoring thing to do, to forgive when you're ready for it. There's no rush. There's no rush in that part, but I just wanted to let you know that that's available. Now, outside of that, you know, as a full moon builds, yes, it's emotional, but also full moons are about partying, okay? Like full moons were a time of celebrations and gathering, and a lot of times we feel more energized around full moons. Sometimes we feel more depleted around full moons, so be gentle with yourself wherever it is that you are showing up, but you may feel that this is a time that you're wanting to get together with, you know, dear friends. You might be wanting to listen to records. You might be wanting to get lost in a movie. You might want to go to some sort of spiritual service. You might want to drink wine. There just could be an energy with Venus trine Neptune around really getting lost in really deep, soulful connections, right? Because that energy of Venus opposite Uranus was just feeling like discordant or out of step with other humans, with other social norms, because you do crave a level of depth that wasn't necessarily available in the context within the vibe check. And this is sort of the energy around finding that, whether that was in the vibe check, you know, the deep conversations that you were having with the individuals that you found at the conference, or maybe within your life, you know, taking time to escape and get lost in what you love, a good book, record that makes your soul feel seen, a movie that returns you to the bigger picture. There can be a beckoning for that. So from a lunar perspective, on Tuesday, we do have a loose water grand trine forming with the Pisces moon, trining Mars in Cancer, trining Venus in Scorpio. And that forms in the morning time. And with water grand trine, certainly, especially with the building full moon, lots of emotions, right? Feeling everything more intensely. But those emotions can also be guiding you to action. Listen to your intuition. You might be in the right place at the right time. Listen to your ebbs and flows of energy. If you feel so inclined to take action in a particular way, follow it. It might lead to the next thing and the next thing. Like I said, we've got a lot of Neptune on Tuesday with Venus trine Neptune building, as well as the moon aligning with Neptune around 10 a.m., which can be dreamy, but it can be a little disillusioning. It can be a little delusional. We definitely could be daydreaming, even more so. We could be a little bit more checked out from reality, a little less discerning around the details or around the to-dos. We can be a little bit more easily distracted. You also just could be extra sensitive, taking on everybody's emotions. I always strive to be cautious with what waters you're swimming in around Neptune energy, because other people could be poisoning your water, so to speak, with their bad energy or with their negativity or with their snubbing of you, right? But the moon will sextile Pluto around 1 p.m. and then it enters the sign of the full moon Aries at 1:34 p.m. So you should feel this tonal shift, okay? We might have been crying with the energy of the Pisces moon, whether it was happy tears, sad tears, and with the energy of Aries moon, now we're fighting. And I'm not even saying that we're fighting other people. Sometimes it's helpful to get mad, to get motivated, right? To take action, right? Like you might have felt like you're feeling a lot with the energy of Pisces moon, feeling more weepy around, you know, how could they do this? Or how could these people exclude me? And the energy of Aries moon is like, I'm going to take action. I'm going to get away from this lunch table. I don't need to cry into my soggy chicken. I just need to get myself into a better situation. You kind of step into that fighting spirit. Even if you're not fighting anyone, you're fighting for your best life. You're fighting for your victory. You're fighting for your justice, whatever that might look like. So on Wednesday, October 16th, the full moon is building and building and building and building, as it does exact early tomorrow morning. And so just know that the story may be coming to light, the emotions may be coming to light, the frustrations may be coming to light. And especially given the nuances of this full moon, the arena and opportunity for healing may be coming to light. This evening, we have the moon making two of the aspects that will be interwoven within the full moon tomorrow, which is the alignment to Chiron and the sextile to Jupiter, which, like I said, is around the information that we can learn from our triggers or from where it is that we are healing. Because a lot of times with Chiron energy, it's different stuff. it's not the same exact situation that hurts us and brings us back to that place where we feel powerless and we feel victimized and we feel inadequate and we feel not good enough. Oftentimes, it's different scenery, different scenarios, different people, different characters, different iteration of ourselves even, but it returns us back to this familiar loop, to this familiar pain, even though it's showing up in a different arena of life, in a different era of our life. It shows up around a familiar pain point, a familiar ouch that exists there. And sometimes it could be things that seem very minor to other people, but again, they don't know your inner landscape and what it is that you've gone through, and as well as you don't know others, so you might find that people are behaving unusually this week. I mean, we had Venus opposite Uranus and just this full moon squaring Mars. People could be lashing out and you're not sure why, but again, it could be coming from a wounded place. Even if people are going on the offense, like bullying you or just being a lot, you might be like, they aren't healing, right? Or they aren't triggered, because a lot of times we associate these terms of healing and triggered with individuals who are a little bit more vulnerable, but that's simply how it is that they're navigating their stuff. And again, like I said with our Neptune talk, we don't need to step into their experience and rationalize and get too far into it, but it's just enough to be like, okay, hurt people hurt people. And if people are waging a battle with you unnecessarily, you know that that's only a symptom of the battle that's existing within themselves. You don't have to step too much into it, but it's just important to know that we all deal with triggers in different ways. Some of us collapse inward, some of us go out into the world, right? Go on the offense. Some of us have flight, some of us have freeze, some of us has fawn. We all have different responses when we get triggered, when something activates us. And sometimes we don't understand why certain experiences, why certain people activate us. And that's where, with the sextile to Jupiter, asking yourself questions can help. And again, this is going to differ based on where it is that you're in the healing journey. If things are still very raw, sometimes it's not the most helpful thing to like ask questions around what part of me is feeling so triggered if you're not even feeling in a space to be able to go there. But what I would say is getting curious around why did that particular experience trigger me so bad? What did it return me back to? As well as looking at what it is that you use to cope. Why am I reaching for my Game Boy to check out of this uncomfortable situation? Maybe it's not Game Boys for us. Maybe for you, it's when I feel very triggered or I feel very anxious, I reach for my tarot cards. I just want like reassurance that everything's gonna be okay. I wanna know what's coming up in the future to distract me from these uncomfortable feelings right now. Or I reach for my vape, or I reach for something else. And it's not to say that you can't do these things, that there's not a place, but it's being very conscious what you're seeking to relieve and checking in to see if it is truly helping. Because again, it's nothing wrong with Game Boy, and in that experience, you were doing what it is that you could do, right, at that time. But perhaps it's just kind of pushing that pain down until you can ignore it and distract yourself until it rears its ugly head once more. And so sometimes asking yourself questions around, why does this bother me so much? Why do I give so much power over these strangers to define whether or not I have a nice lunch period? Or why is it that it bothers me so much when grown strangers behave immaturely and I am the target? Like I said, it's not always helpful diving into other people's experience because you can't really get answers there. And it's not so helpful to dive into what's wrong with me, why am I flawed, but more so getting curious around what comes up within me. What am I tempted to do when this comes up? Because again, with this full moon squaring Mars, a lot of us might be tempted to react in perhaps the typical ways that we react around getting up and going to the bathroom, because that's how we have ingrained to relieve these uncomfortable experiences. But what did you do in the vibe check? You found another opportunity. And seriously, your 7th grade year old self cheers for you in that. And this is a big victory. And whatever your victory is this week, don't let anyone tell you that it's too small or too minuscule. Because I just feel like a lot of us are having victories over our healing journeys, and those can be the most powerful victories of all. And so be proud of yourself. Be proud of the small wins. They might seem small to other people, but they're big to you. If you drove further than you're typically comfortable driving, if you went to the gym, even if it was scary, if you tried a new club, even when that makes you nervous, celebrate yourself. That's huge. No one knows the internal battle that you had to go on in order to get to that place. So on Thursday, October 17th, we have the Aries full moon exacting at 4:26 a.m. This full moon lands at 24 degrees Aries. So that is a particular arena of focus within your chart around what this Aries full moon is bringing up for you. And it might be bringing up some more sensitive topics, as this full moon does align with Chiron, which represents where it is that we are wounded, where it is that we are healing by the same token. It could draw a spotlight on where it is that you are physically healing, where it is that you're emotionally healing, spiritually healing, psychologically healing. And there can also be a certain healing that's transpiring currently around your sense of self and your identity when we talk about the energy of Aries. The last lunation was the Libra solar eclipse. We are no longer in eclipse season. This full moon officially takes us out of it. But that solar eclipse in Libra was about us shedding this need to be what other people want us to be. And maybe in other seasons of our life in the vibe check, we would have taken these individuals' disinterest in us as a challenge around needing to prove something about ourselves to ourselves, around, if I can get these people to like me, that proves that I'm likable. If I can get this person to validate me, that proves that I'm valid. If I can get this person to love me, that proves that I'm lovable. Again, this full moon is the axis of Libra sun, others, Aries moon, self. So looking for assumptions or ways to quantify self through the lens of others. But the question is, what metrics are you selecting that are making these individuals so worthy of dictating whether it is that you are worthy or valid or lovable? These are to strangers at a conference. They don't deserve all that power to decide whether or not you are worthy of being included in a conversation. This is just someone that you're dating who's emotionally unavailable, who triggers a very familiar pain loop. So you're trying to engage with this difficult person to change the outcome, right? To prove something to yourself. But who gave them all that power? Again, this was something that we kind of cleansed out with the Libra solar eclipse. And with this full moon, it's dealing with the emotional residue around that, around recognizing that there's nothing wrong with you. It's not that we don't have flaws and things that we can work on, but it's just recognizing the ways that you've leaked your power around trying to be what other people wanted you to be, or trying to mold yourself into getting that validation, that love, that stamp of approval, right? From people who were never meant to dictate all that about you and how you see yourself. And while this is work that we've been doing all October around taking people off the pedestal to dictate whether or not we have worth or value, or even how it is that you define yourself, this Aries full moon on Chiron, there might be some feelings associated with it, around feeling left out, around feeling less than, around feeling weak or flawed or picked on or singled out, or whatever the story is. A lot of us could be feeling a bit alone. You know, Aries is a very independent, self-sufficient energy, and it's powerful to know that you've got you, right? In those hard moments and those challenging moments, that's such a powerful thing. But there is a degree of disappointment around, I've got me, but how annoying that I always have to be the one who's got me, right? When will somebody else get me and take care of me? And I say that because this full moon squares Mars in Cancer. These stories are bringing up very raw parts of us. Like, a lot of us could have certain scenarios that pick at stories that are encoded from childhood. That's why it's so important to be gentle. It's not just lunch at a business conference center. It's like, this is pulling at a much deeper story that's embedded, that's raw. And when it comes to the square to Mars in Cancer, there just could be frustration around not feeling taken care of, not feeling nurtured, acknowledging, yes, I'm strong, yes, I can take care of myself, I can protect myself, but feeling let down that you haven't been able to find that within other people. And again, in the vibe check, you were able to find that, right, within other people and step into that camaraderie around feeling seen by one another. But some of you could be dealing with some pangs of loneliness, of annoyance at how strong you've had to be, which for some of you could feel like more strength than feels due that a human should have to bear in this lifetime. Especially with this full moon squaring Pluto. I mean, Pluto's direct now. It's pulling up some really psychological, deep-seated stories. So it is important to be gentle. Like I said, we all navigate through our stuff differently. And some people might be on the offense with you. Some people could be competitive with you. It's not saying you need to justify their behavior, but just know that a lot of us are processing stuff, and some of our actions are coming from a place much deeper than the situation should necessarily warrant. And also there could just be fights, conflicts, power struggles, battles alive. It's going to be a necessary, needed practice to continually tune into the good in humanity. Like seriously, have some like puppy videos queued up, or your bestie on standby where you can call them, or a memento box that makes you happy. I'm telling you, sometimes we gotta really work the muscle around seeing the good in things, because with this full moon, it could just be bringing up a lot of stuff. But what I hope that it represents for you is an opportunity to acknowledge your courage. And courage shows up in so many different ways. But acknowledge how courageous you have been. And sometimes that shows up in ways that are like, ooh, you skydive, you do this, you do all these daring feats, right? But sometimes it's just the courage to keep going. Sometimes it's the courage to put yourself out there when you've been hurt before. Sometimes it's the courage to go up and sit at a lunch table and not be sure if you're going to be made fun of or not. This too is courage. And this too is worthy of celebration, like I was sharing earlier. And as I said, the full moon exacted in the morning time. The vibe should chill out as you continue on in the day. And a lot of times around full moons, we feel very, very restless. Sometimes we feel absolutely exhausted. Be gentle with yourself wherever it is that you are showing up. Around 1 p.m., the moon enters Taurus. So a little bit of groundedness within the cosmos. We do not have much Earth in the cosmos outside of Uranus and Pluto, which are hardly the most stabilizing energies. So it should be helpful to ground down. The biggest thing I would say on Thursday is strive not to react, to lash out, to pop off. Check on yourself. Respond rather than react. I'm not saying you shouldn't take action. If you're at a lunch table where you're feeling triggered, take the action to get up and leave. Don't feel like you have to get involved and make these people like you in order to prove something to you about you. You know who you are. You don't need to stay at that lunch table. Get up, move away. But what I'm saying is, if you want to stand on the lunch table and stomp their sad pieces of chicken, maybe hold back. Maybe hold back, right? Because like I said, when something brings up these very raw primal triggers, it represents something so much bigger than that. And sometimes it can make us react in ways that aren't necessarily appropriate situation-wise. And so it's going to be a really good practice, especially with this full moon building Wednesday and Thursday. Take a deep breath, check in. What part of me wants to react? What's my typical way of dealing with situations like this? Is that conducive for my healing journey? Is there a new opportunity of a new way I could take action, or even a new way I could defend myself? Because I do feel like some of us are going to stick up for ourselves with this full moon, even stick up for a younger version of ourselves with this full moon, honestly. Like you having that sarcastic comment around, so nice to meet you guys, like your younger self would have cheered that because you were calling that behavior out for what it was. Again, it was kind of in a more covert, right, Libra season way, like saying it with a smile, killing them with kindness. But there is a sarcastic tone. Like it was clear that you were clocking what they were doing and you weren't standing for that. Before, you would just disappear and run into the bathroom and act like you didn't exist. But you saw it in that moment. You stood up for yourself in your own way, in not a violent way, not a reactive way, but you stood up for yourself. And when you stand up for yourself, those younger versions of you are still within you and they are cheering you on. And sometimes you don't get an opportunity to redo it with the initial, perpetrators, the initial middle school bullies who caused you all that, psychological distress at that age. But like I said, with Venus trine Neptune, it didn't even need to be those people, right? You still are able to get justice for your own soul and what it is that you're learning when you take a different action now, when you grow now. It's not about the people themselves. It's what they bring up within you and the new ways that you show up. I would say on Thursday, don't feel like you need to react, especially if it's coming from this very triggered reactive space, because that might not be the more evolved way to handle it. Honestly, I'm really not approaching this full moon in a love and light type way. Like, get mad. You can be mad. Mad is not a bad thing. It's just not stewing in those energies of anger. Honestly, sometimes anger is actually a step up in our emotions for us to reach for. It's actually healthy to reach for anger rather than like despair. Sometimes getting mad helps you get motivated, right? The energy of Mars is about action, motivation, anger. These are connected themes. And so sometimes it's helpful to step into that energy around getting mad, because sometimes we get into this energy around, well, there's something around me and I'm just weird and that's why no one likes me. But it can be healthy to step into, no, those middle school bullies were rude. And this lunch table is freaking immature. Because when we're mad, we're validating our own emotions around, shouldn't be treated like that. No one should be treated like that. Because a lot of times we just take people's behavior without question. And what's worse, with the full moon on Chiron, we weave it into our identity. I am someone who's worthy of being excluded. I am somebody who doesn't fit in. I am somebody who is worthy of being shouldered out of conversations. When you get mad, you're affirming, I don't deserve to be treated like that. No one deserves to be treated like that, which can be healthy, especially when it comes to your self-concept. And so get mad. You're allowed to get mad. You know, on Thursday, go to one of those rooms where you can break stuff. That would be a great Aries full moon activity. I've never been to one of those. If you've been to one, let me know. Was it cathartic? We just had a piñata at a Halloween party that I just went to. It was like a ghost piñata. And that was honestly cathartic, hitting that thing. So maybe have a piñata. Maybe take a kickboxing class. Like, it's not saying that you can't be mad and have some stuff come up and to work through it, but it's just really seeking to respond rather than to react. At 5:30 a.m., we also have Venus and Scorpio sextiling Pluto and Capricorn. So this is Venus and Scorpio's final aspect, enter Sagittarius a little later on in the day. And this is really the reminder of the resilience of the heart, in that we could be rejected, we could be betrayed, we could be done dirty. Maybe Venus and Scorpio doesn't forget those things, but it is this energy around being able to move forward and being able to rebuild and to know how freaking resilient the heart is. That we can have our hearts shattered and battered and broken and still be able to pour out love into this world. It's really a beautiful thing, truly. Just to know how enduring and how powerful our love can be, and to not allow the harsh experiences of this world to close out our heart, because at the end of the day, love is worth it, connection is worth it, friendship is worth it. There will be experiences in which people shut you out. There will be experiences in which people reject you. There will be experiences in which people betray you. But even still, it's worth it to keep your heart open. And I would say it even deepens your capacity to love, because that's courageous. Talking about courage with the Aries full moon, that's the most courageous thing of all. To love after you've been broken and you know what it's like to be broken and betrayed and hurt. That is one of the most courageous things that you could do, is like offer up your heart still, knowing that people can do a number on it, right? That is courage. The vibe should chill out with the moon entering Taurus later on in the day to kind of like integrate, to ground, to soothe. Another shift that's happening on Thursday, also midday, is that Venus enters Sagittarius. So Venus has been in Scorpio, which goes deep, right? I want to plunge into your soul. I want to investigate your secrets. I want deep intimacy. And Venus in Sagittarius goes wide. It wants to explore. It wants to adventure. It wants to follow our own arrow, to look for our own sense of meaning within this experience. And with Venus in Sagittarius, this is kind of the energy around being open to new connections. You know, when it comes to dating, if anybody's dating with Venus in Sagittarius, allowing spontaneity into your dating life, maybe saying yes to people that you typically wouldn't, and like really seeking to see what it is that you can learn or what new experiences you can have within your dating life. If you're in a committed relationship, this transit could be a great opportunity to plan a trip with your lover, or to try a new cuisine from a different side of the world than you guys typically enjoy together. Also with Venus in Sagittarius, we can find that financially we're more apt to want to spend on experiences and traveling, just wanting to see new things, experience new things. This is a wide world. And it's important to remember that. It's so much bigger than your middle school cafeteria. It's so much bigger than this business conference event. There's a big wide world. And sometimes even just coming back to that perspective and be like, okay, they're on a freaking power trip in this wide, wonderful world. You're really going to ice me out? Like, really? What do you even get from that? It helps you maintain perspective and kind of like look at that behavior around like, okay, you're silly. You're just really silly, right? It helps you get perspective. Also, even if we're not physically traveling, it's also like mentally traveling. Diving into new books, into new spiritual topics can also be an arena of interest. So on Friday, October 18th, it is Venus Day, and we have the moon in a Venusian ruled sign of Taurus. And Taurus Venusian energy really asks us to soothe into creature comforts. This can really help us, especially if we are triggered, like especially if events transpired this week that were challenging on whichever level they were challenging. There's an ask to really ground down, indulge the senses, because if we are in situations in which our fight or flight response is triggered, or we're just in a situation that kind of puts us on edge, that's a lot for your physical body to go through. And sometimes you do experience a crash right after. So be gentle with yourself if you're craving more rest than you typically are. If you're needing to be lazy right now, you're not being lazy. Please listen to your body. Taurus moon, Mars in Cancer. Please listen, give yourself what it is that you're craving. This week might have taken a lot out of you. And a lot of times we dismiss ourselves because it's like, well, it wasn't that physically challenging, or I didn't get that much done at work. But it's really acknowledging this week the battles that you overcame on many different levels, right? The physical battles, but also the emotional battles, the spiritual battles, the psychological battles. So just be gentle with your body. And again, soothe yourself, give yourself those things that remind you, I'm safe. Because this full moon just feels like it's bringing us to a place that doesn't feel so safe. That's triggering us quite a bit, right? Where we feel like we are in these situations where we were potentially in a very unsafe environment. And now, again, a similar theme might be activated, but it's important to tune into, I'm safe. Like, I'm an adult. I live in my own house, I make my own rules, or I'm just at this conference, I get to go home at the end of the day and have my warm blanket and cuddle my cat and soothe my senses and watch my show. Like, it's important to remind yourself, like, I'm safe, I'm at ease, because it feels like there are certain themes that are coming up that are making us feel not so safe. So important to soothe your senses. And shortly after midnight, the Taurus moon will oppose Mercury. So there could just be battles between what we feel and what we are thinking, head and the heart feeling to be in conflict at this moment. But with the Taurus moon sextiling Saturn in Pisces, if you're not too drained from all of that Aries full moon energy, it should be a nice productive day. Just take it slow with the energy of Taurus moon, one step at a time, attuned to what needs to be done, but also attuned to what feels good, what soothes you. So on Saturday, October 19th, around 3 a.m., the Taurus moon will sextile Mars in Cancer. So if you happen to be up and awake for that, it would be a really powerful time to really allow your senses to guide you. Like, make breakfast based on what sounds good, right? Maybe you were going to make something, but you're like, ooh, just French toast sounds good right now. Like, follow your instincts, especially around what will comfort you with this alignment, or even around, gosh, I was gonna go to Pilates, but actually a long walk sounds much more soothing right now. Or I was going to go to brunch with my partner, but I wonder if they'd be down for grabbing donuts and the coffee and going to the beach, or something of that nature. Like, allow instincts to guide you. And again, I do feel like there's gonna be a spontaneous, potentially morning activity with the moon aligning with Uranus. Sometimes this manifests around unusual weather or disturbance of plans or something of that nature. But also just could be you having a spontaneous craving and following it with the sextile to Mars. We also have the Taurus moon sextiling Neptune. So again, being able to tap into the divinity, the beauty, the compassion around you. The Taurus moon also trines Pluto in Capricorn. So just a reminder around soothing into this moment, acknowledging that things are constantly evolving and changing, and not clinging to this particular moment, just appreciating it, acknowledging that it is impermanent. So wanting to really be here now, right? Especially with the Taurus moon energy, just acknowledging there will never be a weekend with the cosmos situated as they are, and with the two of us connecting as we are, and the weather being as it is, and our children being the age they are, our friends being the age they are. So it's just acknowledging what is alive currently. Again, there might be a lot that's wrong or feels like that's wrong, either within your micro reality or within our macro world. But with the energy of Taurus moon, trine, Pluto, and Capricorn, it's just gaining awareness around everything changes, which is solace when we're navigating some really hellish times. The moon is then void after it's trine to Pluto at 12:33 p.m. until it enters Gemini at 1:07 p.m., which draws our awareness to wanting to connect and get curious around this experience. And so you could definitely feel more inclined to socialize, especially with the Gemini moon opposing Venus in Sagittarius. You might be open to new things, going to that new museum, going to a new restaurant that just opened, connecting with a new friend. It is a time to be open to the novel coming into your experience. Again, sometimes we have contrasts around the humans that we do not want to spend time with, but don't let it stop your search for the humans that do feel aligned for your experience. I would just say with this energy, sometimes it could be a little chaotic. Gemini and Sagittarius energy. Fun, chaotic, okay. Love you guys, Geminis and Sagittarius. But there just could be an energy around not being exactly sure what it is that you want to do, or packing your stuff to go paint at the park. And as you're doing that, you're like, wait, should I bring cheese to go to the park? And then you go to the store to buy cheese. And then you see wine. You're like, should I get wine? You know who likes wine? My friend Anita likes wine. Should I call her and see if she wants to paint with me at the park? Then you call Anita. Anita's like, well, I'm actually going to this party, but do you want to come? And then you're going to the party with Anita and you have this cheese that you bought for your party. Like, it could just be one of those days. And I would just say be open to the adventure if that happens to come up, or just be open for what it is that you can learn. Even if you're not going to spontaneous party with Anita, follow your curiosity. If a random question enters your mind, take that opportunity to Google it. And if there's a book on the topic and it interests you, check it out. Or if you see that there is a club in town that's meeting on a topic that you're into, perhaps say yes. You know, Venus in Sagittarius is very say yes energy. On Sunday, October 20th, if the Gemini moon opposite Venus in Sagittarius was say yes energy, the Gemini moon squaring Saturn in Pisces, which it does today at 11:07 a.m., is very much say no energy. And there's a couple different ways that this could come up. You could just have an energy on Sunday around feeling burdened by how much you have to do. Maybe you had a little bit too much fun with Anita at the party the night prior, and now you're just like lying in bed thinking about all the things that you should do around, oh, I really should do laundry. I really should finally organize my closet. I really should clean the hamster's cage. Like, just thinking of all the shoulds, but you're just lost in your own thoughts. You also just could be feeling a little melancholic. You could be overthinking and hurting your feelings. You could feel annoyed. You could be feeling restricted. You could be having a hard time making your mind up about stuff. Your mind could be hurting your feelings, okay, with this energy. So please choose gentleness. Honestly, extend that advice all week, honestly, is choose gentleness. Don't be so hard on yourself. With the energy of Gemini moon, get curious. What can I learn from what's coming up? So my loves, that is our week. The Magic Monday mantra of the week is, I stick up for the younger versions of myself who were unable to. When there are certain situations that come to the surface that bring up a very raw, tender part of our story, there is an opportunity, there is a choice point to react in the ways that we always have, or to potentially find a new way of showing up. And I'm not saying that needs to look like violence or yelling at someone or finding who bullied you in middle school and finally getting your revenge. Sometimes this energy of sticking up for ourselves or advocating for ourselves just means doing what we were afraid to prior, or reclaiming our power in the way that we are able to in this moment. So it doesn't need to look like yelling and having a confrontation with the person. Sometimes it means choosing to enroll in a dance class when your middle school bullies said that you looked ugly in your tutu, right? That's you sticking up for your younger self and saying, no, you like to dance, dance. Sometimes that means when someone makes a dismissive comment towards you, where typically you would just look down and feel awkward, you say, no, I'm curious, what did you mean by that? Like, you choose to press them rather than just let them get away with it. Again, this energy of avenging ourselves, it doesn't need to be anything big. It's just being presented with a similar opportunity to react in a similar way and choosing to find strength in whatever that looks like to us. Because when we take that action, all of those younger versions of ourselves who did not feel capable enough or valuable enough in order to take action, to feel empowered, cheer us on. And we heal those prior versions of ourselves. Because it's not even to say that it needed to be a story from when we were really young. It could be the version of you 2 weeks ago who was too weak to do what it is that you were doing this week, or what it is that you're having the courage to face or to acknowledge this week. And it doesn't need to be to the person that hurt you. It could be within your own journey around, this person said I was bad at this, but I'm going to still show up for this. Or this particular conversation reminds me of a familiar dynamic and I'm going to handle it differently. Or doing this thing scares me quite a bit, but I'm going to do it. And the versions of me who chickened out or what have you are so proud of me for doing just that. So see where that may potentially come up for you as you navigate this week. And my loves, I've got to say, I've so enjoyed our time together, but I am quite happy that it is coming to a close only because I'm severely uncomfortable within this wig. So I hope that did not come through. I'm sending you all strength if you too have a costume that involves a wig, okay? It is not easy, especially when it is a rather cheap wig. If you were not able to gather. But my loves, if you made it to the end of the forecast, go ahead and drop below the mermaid emoji or use the word mermaid in a sentence to let me know that you made it to the end. I'd like to give another heartfelt thank you to Magic Mind for keeping this mermaid swimming, for keeping my brain operating with the nootropics, the adaptogens, the caffeine, the vitamins that are within. This is part of my every single day and I love to be able to share it with you guys. You can use code COMET to get 20% off my productivity hack Magic Mind. I'll drop that link within the description as well as within the pinned comment. But until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay positive.